Hello everyone, I'm talking to you from Friday because I am out of town this week, and I wanted to point that out because we are not doing Address the SESS as we normally would this Wednesday. We're going to do it next week so we can all talk about the announcement that's coming from Microsoft. I will be up in Seattle to see what happens when they unveil the new Xbox. Be it good or bad, I believe there's much to discuss. So, all right, with that business out of the way, something else that I did this week is I got to see Watchdogs, a game that, whether it's good or bad or anything, I think is a product of one of the most shrewd business decisions I've seen, which was its reveal at E3 last year, when they did not say it was a next generation game, but it clearly was, and Ubisoft suddenly had mind share on an unannounced generation of consoles. I've always wanted to tip my hat to them, but I really wanted to see the game as well, and we got a nice kind of taste of it. There was something that happened at the beginning, though, that struck me, that we saw the character that you play break into kind of a facility that runs the technology in a section of Chicago, and once you hacked into it, it opened up all the cell phones and the communication devices in that region. Very similar to other games you get from Ubisoft Montreal, such as Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, that seem to have very similar game structures, even though they tend to play very, very differently. At first I was like, oh no, this is way too familiar. As the demo went on, it really helped distinguish Watchdogs as quite different from those other two games. But I couldn't help but thinking about, well, auteur theory. This is applied a lot to film, that certain directors have styles that can be seen in every project they work on. People like Roman Polanski and Stanley Kubrick. It's very, very evident in those films. But you never hear that applied to a studio. Like, no one said United Artists all make, very similar types of films. And I'm finding myself actually thinking that about Ubisoft Montreal. I don't know if it's good or bad. There is a sense of the similarity reducing a sense of surprise, but it is very effective in a business model. Those games are all open world and they're big, and that type of style allows enough of a feedback loop for the player to try to engage in it. I've always found that when I'm playing an Assassin's Creed game, and I found this when I was playing Far Cry 3, I'm doing a lot of busy work that I may not be enjoying as much as the core game, but I'm doing it because I want that little upgrade, that sense of benefit that will help enhance the playing of the core experience. I think it allows them to make these games look like a good investment for $60 because you get so much out of it, even though at the end of the day, only 65 to 70% of the experience is the part that I found memorable and very satisfying. I have to say, where I think it benefits them the most is how modular it is. The only other kind of games like the Ubisoft Montreal games are Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, and they allow for very interesting expansions, such as Undead Nightmare, and in the case of Far Cry 3, the thoroughly enjoyable Blood Dragon. And this type of DLC is something I would like to see more of in the future, where you're not trying to extend the narrative of the original game past the point where it's enjoyable. You just take what was fun about it, the gameplay, and slap it into something that's entirely different. Blood Dragon, in its abject silliness, doesn't undermine the integrity of the story in Far Cry 3. It does something that's a lot of fun. It feels a lot more open, and you get the sense that the developers really enjoyed making this game rather than putting something else out there to get $15 more out of your pocket. All right, our question this week comes from Reeks of Havoc, and that's Reeks with a W, not R-E-E-K-S, like he smells of chaos. I don't know what that would smell like. Probably like juniper berries, I think. Anyway, Adam, you recently discussed the importance of launch lineups on Casual Friday. Specifically, you went in depth on Microsoft. You reinforced the need for a variety amongst a launch lineup. Coincidentally, rumors are circulating Rare is working on a game for the next Xbox. It's a long shot, but it might be a new Banjo Kazooie. During your days at G4, you talked with great fondness for Banjo Kazooie. Do you think a traditional 3D platforming Banjo Kazooie is still viable in today's market? Thank you very much, Reeks of Havoc. Yes, I love the original Banjo Kazooie. I think also that was the first game I really indulged myself in when I started on GameSpot TV in 1998. I still remember talking about it with Jeff Gertzman when I really didn't know what I was doing back when I started this gig. I always felt that that game worked because It was a coherent world that was explorable, there were things to discover, and the variety of gameplay. If you contrast that, say, with Mario 64, most of the 3D Mario games, they're all so skill-based, and this was a mixture of the twitch that you need for platforming and all the puzzle solving. Now, the question is, are we gonna see a new one? Is it viable? I have not heard this rumor. If Rare is working on a game, I would rather it be Banjo Kazooie than, say, Perfect Dark. But is it viable in today's market? That's a fascinating question. My initial gut response is, no, it is not. The success, or lack thereof, for Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts might be an indicator of it. Although, while that game is quite a bit of fun to play, I think the narrowness, the focusing on the car mechanic didn't allow it to expand itself into what a proper Banjo Kazooie game should be. More importantly, that type of game, I believe it's now called the character-driven 3D adventure game, do tend to look like they're skewing towards young people, and that doesn't seem to be what the core gamer audience wants. And that's why we see a lot of launch lineups and a lot of games that are in dark dystopian futures where you have a gun and there's a corporation and people's faces are getting shot off. That is probably what people want when they're adopting a new console, but if the goal of Microsoft, especially Microsoft, who looks like they're gonna try to get this console to have mass appeal, we do need to see a variety of games. Not just your shooters, not just the core gamer audience-pleasing content. We need to find something that the younger members of the family, the older members of the family, or people who would like a little bit of variety have something to play in addition to the traditional stuff that we see at a console's launch. Also, platformers used to be a way to show off the technology that is in a new console. The big one is Super Mario 64, a fully explorable 3D world. When you hit the analog stick in a certain direction, that's the way that Mario went. They really are supposed to be a showcase of it. I don't know if the platformer can hold that role these days, but damn, I want to see someone try it. All right, like I said, we're not going to have Address the SESS this week, but we will be having a review of Metro Last Light from Tara Long. Also, the following week, on the 21st, we are going to hear about the new Xbox. I will be up in Seattle giving you my reactions from there, but we're also going to have Max and Tara and a host of other people from Revision 3 live streaming their reactions to the announcements as it's happening. So if you want to see more about that, well, check the link below.